Chapter 20. Hagrid's Tale. Harry sprinted up to the boys' dormitory to fetch the invisibility clock and the Mortis map from his trunk. He was so quick that he and Ron were ready to leave at least 5 minutes before Hermione hurried back down from the girls' dormitories wearing scarf, gloves, and one of her own noble elf hat. Well, cool out there, she said defensively, as Ron clicked his tongue impatiently. They crept through the portrait hole and covered themselves hastily in the cloak. Ron has grown so much he now needed to crouch to prevent his feet showing them. Moving slowly and cautiously, they proceed down the many staircase, pausing at intervals to check the map of for sight of Fletch or Mrs. Norris. They were lucky they saw nobody but nearly headless Nick, who was gliding along absentmindly, humming something that sounded horrible like Wesley is our king. They crept across the entrance hall and then out into the silent, snowy ground with a great leap of his heart. Harry saw a little golden square of light ahead and smoke pouring up from Hagrid's chimney. He set off at a quick march, and other two jostling and bumping along behind him, and plunged excitedly through the thickening snow until at least they reached the wooden and front door. When Harry raised his first and knocked 3 times, a dog started barking frantically inside. Hagrid, it's us, Harry called through the keyhole. Should know, said gruff voice. They beamed at one another under the cloak. They could tell that Hagrid's voice was pleased. Been home 3 seconds out the way, Fang out of way. Here, dozy dog. The bolt was down back, the door cracked open, and Hagrid's head appeared in the gap. Hermione screamed. Merlin's beard, keep it down, said Hagrid hastily, staring wildly over their heads. Under that cloak, are you? Well, get in, get in. I'm sorry, Hermione gasped as the three of them squeezed past Hagrid into the house and pulled the cloak off themselves so he could see them. Oh, Hagrid, it's nothing, said Hagrid hastily, shutting the door behind them and hurried to close all the curtains, but Hermione continued to gaze up at him in horror. Hagrid's hair was matted with congealed blood, and his left eye had been reduced to a puffy slit amid a mass of purple and black brushes. There were many cuts on his face and hands, some of them still bleeding, and he was moving gingerly, which made Harry suspect broke ribs. It was obvious that he had only just got home. A thick black travelling cloak lay over the back of a chair, and a haversack large enough to carry several small children leaned against the wall inside the door. Hagrid himself, twice the size of a normal man and 3 times as broad, was now limping over to the fire and placing a copper kettle over it. What happened to you? Harry demanded while Fang was around them all, trying to lift their faces. Told you nothing, said Hagrid firmly. One up, come off it, said Ron. You're in right state. I'm telling you I'm fine, said Hagrid, straining up and turning to beam at them all. But wincing dreamily, it's good to see you three again. Had good summer, did you? Hagrid, you have been attacked, said Ron. For the last time, it's nothing, said Hagrid firmly. Did you say it was nothing if one of us turned up with a pound of meat instead of face? Ron demanded. You have to go and see Madame Pomfrey, Hagrid, said Hermione anxiously. Some of those cuts look nasty. Dealing with it, all right, said Hagrid repressively. He walked across to the enormous wooden table that stood in the middle of his cabin and twitched aside a tea towel and that had been lying on it. Underneath it was a raw, bloody green pink steak slightly larger than the average car tire. You're not going to eat that, are you, Hagrid? Said Ron, leaning in for a closer look. It looked poisonous. It's supposed to look like that. It's a dragon meat, said Hagrid, and I didn't get it. He did. Picked up the snake and slapped it over the left side of his face. Greenish blood trickled down into his head and he gave a soft moan of satisfaction. It's bitter. It helped with the sting, you know. So, are you going to tell us what happened to you? Harry asked. Can Harry, top secret? More of my job were to tell you that. Did the giant beat you up, Hagrid? Asked Hermione quietly. Hagrid's finger slipped on the dragon stick and it slid squashily out his chest. Giant, said Hagrid, catching the stick before it reached to the belt and slapping it back over his face. Who said anything about giant? You have been talking to, say, who is told you I have, who said I have been. Yeah, we guess, said Harmony apologetically. Oh yeah, did did you? Said Hagrid, fixing her sternly with the eye that was not hidden by the stick. It was kind of obvious, said Ron. Harry nodded. Hagrid glared at them, then sawed through the stick onto the table again and struck back into the kettle, which was now whistling. Never you know kids like you three for knowing more you out too, he muttered, splashing boiling water into three of his bucket-shaped mugs, and I'm not complaining you neither, nor some do call it interfering. But his beard twitched. So you have been a look for giant, said Harry, grinning as he sat down at the table. Hagrid set tea in front of each of them, sat down his stick again, and slapped it back over his face. You're right, he grunted. I have. And you founded them, said Hermione in a hushed voice. Well, they are not that difficult to find. To be honest, said Hagrid, pretty big, see. What are they? Said Ron. Mountains, said Hagrid helpfully. So, why don't muggles? They do, said Hagrid darkly. No, their deaths are always put down to mountains accidents, aren't they? He adjusted a stick a little so that it covered the worst of it brushing. Come on, Hagrid, tell us what you have been up to, said Ron. Tell us about being attacked by giant, and Harry can tell you about being attacked by the Dementor. Hagrid choked in his mug and dropped his stick at the same time. A large quantity of sweet tea and dragon blood was sprayed over the table as Hagrid coughed and spluttered and stick slid with a soft splat onto the floor. What do you mean, attacked by Dementor? Growled Hagrid. Didn't you know? Hermione asked, wide-eyed. I don't know anything that's been happening since I left. I was on secret mission, wasn't I? It warned owls following me all over the places, Rudy Dementors. You are not serious. Yeah, I am. They turned up in a little winging and attacked my cousin and me, and then Ministry of Magic expelled me. What? And I had to go to hearing and everything, but tell us about the giant first. You were expelled. Tell us about your summer and I'll tell you about mine. Hagrid glared at him through his one open eyes and Harry looked right back, an expression of innocent determination on his face. All right, said Hagrid in a resigning voice. He bent down and turned the dragon stick out of Fang's mouth. Oh, Hagrid, don't it? It's not hygiene. Hermione began, but Hagrid had already slapped the meat back on over his swollen eye. He looked another fortifying gulp of tea and then sighed. Well, we set off right after he did. Madam Maxim went with you. Then Hermione interjected. Yeah, that's right, said Hagrid, and a softened expression appeared on the few inches of face that were not obscured by a beard of green stick. Hey, it was just the pair of us, and I'll tell you this, she's not afraid of rubbing it. Olives, yeah, no, she's fine, well-dressed women, and knowing where we was going. I wonder how she do feel about clambering over boulders and sleeping in caves and that, but she never complained once. You knew where you were going, Harry asked. You knew where the giants were. Well, Dumbledore knew, and he told us, said Hagrid. Are they hidden? Asked Ron. Is it secret? Why are they? Not really, said Hagrid, shaking his shaggy head. It's just that most wizards aren't bothered where they are, so long as it's good long way away. But where they are very difficult to get to for humans anyway. So we need a Dumbledore's instruction. Look about what to get there. A month, said Ron, as though he had never heard of journey lasting such a ridiculous long time. But why couldn't you just grab a portkey or something? There was an old expression in Hagrid's obscure eye as he squinted at Ron. It was almost pitying. We are being watched. Ron, he said gruffly. What do you mean? You don't understand, said Hagrid, the ministry keeping an eye on Dumbledore and anyone they reckon in league with him. And we know about that, said Harry quickly, keen to hear about the rest of the Hagrid story. We know about ministries watching Dumbledore. So you couldn't use magic and get there, asked Ron, looking thunderstruck. You had to act like Muggle all the way. Well, not exactly all the way, said Hagrid caggily. We just had to be carefully cause Olam and me we stick out a bit. Ron made a stifled noise wherever between the snort of sniff and hastily took a gulp of tea. So we are not hired to follow. We was pretending we was going on holiday together. So we got into France and we made like we was heading for our alum school. Is cause we know we was being told by someone from the ministry we had to go slow cause I am not really supposed to use magic and we knew the ministry's been looking for a reason to run us in. But we managed to give the bird telling us the slip round about Dijon. Oh, Dijon, said Harmony excitedly. I have been there in holidays. Did you see? The fell silent at the look on Ron's face. Chance a bit of magic after that, and we wasn't a bad journey. Ran into a couple of patrol of a college border, and I had a slight disagreement with the vampire in a pub in West, but apart from that, couldn't be smoother. And then we reached the place we started taking up through the mountains looking for a sign of them. We had to lie off the magic once we got near them, partly cause they don't like wizards and we didn't want to put their back up too soon. And partly cause Dumbledore had warned us, you know who was bound to be after the giants and all, said it was odd on he had sent a messenger off to them already, told us to be careful of drawing attention to ourselves as we got nearer in case there was Death Eater around. Hagrid paused for a long draught of tea. Go on, said Harry urgently. For them, said Hagrid badly, went over a rigid one night. And there they spread out underneath us, little fire burning below and huge shadows. It was like watching bit of a mountain moving. How big are they? Asked Ron in a hushed voice. Bound 20 feet, said Hagrid casually. Some of bigger, one might be 25. And now, many were there, asked Harry. I reckon about 70 or 80, said Hagrid. Is that all? Said Hermione. Yep, said Hagrid sadly. It left, and there was Lord once must be 100 different trips from all over the world, but they've been drying out for ages. Wizards killed a few, of course, but mostly they killed each other, and now they are dying out faster than ever. They are not made to live bunch up together like that. Dumbledore said it was our fault. It was the wizard who forced them to go and made them live a good long way from us. They had no choice but to stick together for their own protection. So, said Hagrid, you saw them and then what? Well, we waited till morning, didn't want to go sneaking up and them in the dark for our own safety, said Hagrid. But 3 in the morning they fell asleep just where they was sitting. We didn't dare sleep. For one thing, we wanted to make sure none of them woke up and came up where we were, and for another, the snoring was unbelievable. Was an avalanche near morning. Anyway, when it was light, we weren't to see them. Just like that, sit down looking awestruck. You just walked right into giant camp. Well, Dumbledore told us how to do it, said Hagrid. Give the girl gift, show some respect, you know. Give them what gift? Asked Harry. Oh, church, I mean the chef. How could you tell which one was the church? Asked Ron. Hagrid grunted in amusement. No problem, he said. He was the biggest, silliest, and the laziest. We wanted him to be brought food by the others. They thought, as such like name Arcos. I had put him at 22, 23 feet, and the weight of the couple of bull elephant skin like rhino hide and all. And you just walked up to him, said Hermione breathlessly, well down to him, where he was lying, as the valley there was in this day between the pretty high mountains. See, beside a mountain lake, and Carcross was lying by the lake mourning at the other to feed him and his wife. Olam and I went down the mountainside, but didn't they try to kill you when they saw you? Asked Ron incredulously. It was definitely on some of their mind, said Hagrid, shrugging, but we did Dumbledore told us to do, which was to hold our gift up high and keep our eye on George and ignore the others. So that's what we did, and the rest of them went quiet and watched us pass, and we got right up to Carcross's feet, and we bowed and put our present down in front of him. What do you give a giant? Asked Ron eagerly. Food. Ah, he can get food all right for himself, said Hagrid. We took him magic, giant-like magic. Just don't like us using it against them. Anyway, that for the first day we gave him a branch of Grubnither fire. Hermione said, wow, softly, but Harry and Ron both roared in puzzlement. A branch of everlasting fire, said Hermione irritably. You ought to know that by now. Professor Flitwick mentioned it at least twice in class. Well, anyway, said Hagrid quickly, intervening right before Ron could answer back. Dumbledore's bewished the branch to burn every more, and since something any wizard could do, and so I lie it down in the snow like Carcrow's feet and say a gift to George for a giant from Albus Dumbledore, who sent his respectful greeting. And what did Carcrow say? Asked Harry eagerly. Nothing, said Hagrid. Didn't speak English. You're kidding. Didn't matter, said Hagrid. Imperturbable. Dumbledore had warned us that might happen. Arcturus knew enough to yell for a couple of giants who knew our lingo and they translate for us. And did he like the present? Asked Ron. Oh yeah. It went down to storm once they understood what it was, said Hagrid, turning in dragon's stick or to praise the color. Sighed to his solemn eye, very pleased. So they, I said, Albus Dumbledore asked the church to speak with his messenger, and he turned tomorrow with another gift. Why couldn't you speak to them that day? Asked Hermione. Dumbledore wanted us to take it very slow, said Hagrid. Let them see we kept our promise. We'll come back tomorrow with another present. And then we do come back with another present, give a good impression, see, and give them time to test out the fire present and find out it's a good one and get them eager for one more. In case giants like Carcrows overload them with information and they'll kill you just to simplify things. So we bowed out two way and went of them found themselves a nice little cave to spend that night in, and the following morning we went back, and this time we found Carcrows sitting up waiting for us looking all eager. And you talk to him. Oh yeah. First we present him with a nice battle helmet, goblin made and indestructible. Yea, no, and we sat down and we talked. What did he say? Not much, said Hagrid, listening mostly. But there were good signs he had heard about Dumbledore, or he had argued against the killing of last giant in Britain. Marcus seemed to be quite interested in what Dumbledore had to say, and a few of the others, especially the ones who had some English, they gathered around and listened to. We were hopeful when we left that day, promised to come back next day with another present, but that night it all went wrong. What do you mean? Said Ron quickly. Well, like I say, they are not meant to live together, giant, said Hagrid sadly. Not a big group like that. They can't help themselves. They half kill each other. Every few weeks, the men fight each other, the women fight each other, the remnant of the old tribes fight each other, and that everyone, even without squabble or food and the best fire and sleeping spot, yea, think seeing as how their whole race is about to finish. They had laughed each other, but Hagrid sighed deeply. That night a fight broke out. We saw it from the mouth of our cave, looking down on the valley, went on for hours. Ye wouldn't believe the noise, and when the sun came up, the snow was scattered as his head was lying at the bottom of the lake. Whose head? Gasped Hermione. Carcrows, said Hagrid heavily. There was new Gurg. Volgomath. He sighed deeply. Well, he hadn't bargained a new church 2 days after we made friendly contact with the first one. And we had funny feeling Golmat wouldn't be so keen to listen to us, but we had to try. You went to speak to him, asked Ron incredulously, after you watched him rip off another giant's head. Of course we did, said Hagrid. We have gone all that way to give up after 2 days. We went down with extra present we meant to give to Carcrows. I knew it was no go before I had opened my mouth. He was sitting there wearing Carcrew's helmet, leaning at us as he got nearer. His massive one, oh, the biggest one there, black hair and matching teeth and necklace of bones, human looking bones, some of them. Well, I gave it to go, held out a great rose dragon skin as I said, a gift for the judge of the giant. Next thing I knew, I was hanging upside down in the air by my feet. Two of his mates had grabbed me. Harmony clapped her hand to her mouth. How did you get out of that? Asked Harry. Couldn't done if Olaf hadn't been there, said Hagrid. She pulled out her wand and did some of the fastest spell work I have ever seen. Really marvelous. Hit the two holding me right in the eyes with conjunctivitis first as they dropped me straight away. But we were in trouble then, cause we had used magic against them, and that what Giant hate about Wizard. We had to let it, and we knew there was no way he was going to be able to march into camp again. Blippi Hagrid said Ron quickly. So how come it take you so long to get home if you were only there for 3 days? Asked Hermione. We didn't leave after 3 days, said Hagrid, looking outraged. Dumbledore was relying on us, but you have just said there was no way you could go back. Not by daylight. We couldn't. No, we just had to rethink a bit. Spent a couple of days lying low up in the cave and watching, and what we saw was good. Did he rip off Moret? Asked Hermione, sounding squeamish. No, said Hagrid. I wish he had. What do you mean? I mean, we soon found out he didn't object to all wizards, just us, Death Eater, said Harry quickly. Yep, said Hagrid darkly. Couple of them were visiting him every day, bringing gifts to the church, and he wasn't dangling them upside down. How do you know they were Death Eaters? Said Ron. Because I recognize one of them, Hagrid roared. McNair. Remember him? Block they sent to kill Buckbeak. Manic. He is like killing as much as Gormath. No wonder they were getting on so well. So McNair persuaded the giant to join. You know who, said Hermione desperately. Hold, you Griffin hippogriff. I haven't finished the story yet, said Hagrid indigently, who consolidingly he had not wanted to tell them anything in the first place, now seemed to be rather enjoying himself. Me and Olam talked it more, and we agreed just cause the church looked like favoring you know who didn't mean all of them would. We had to try to pursue some of others, the one who hadn't wanted Volgomath at church. How could you tell which one they were? Asked Ron. Well, they were the ones being beaten to a pulp, weren't they? Said Hagrid patiently, the one which any sense were keeping out Golgaman's way, hidden out in caves, round the gully, just like we were. So we decided we had go poking around the caves by night and see if we couldn't pursue a few of them. You went poking around dark caves looking for giant, said Ron with awed respect in his voice. Well, it wasn't the giant who worried us most, said Hagrid. We were more concerned about the Death Eaters. Dumbledore had told us before we weren't not to tangle with them if we could avoid them. And trouble was they knew we was around. Spet Golgamot told him about us at night when the giant were sleeping and we wanted to be creeping into the caves. McNair and the other one were sneaking around the mountain looking for us. I was hard put to stop all them jumping out of them, said Hagrid, the corner of his mouth lifting his wild beard. She was raring to attack them. She's something when she's roast, Olympia, fiery, you know. Expect it's French in her. Hagrid gazed misty-eyed into the fire. Harry allowed him 30-second reminiscence before clearing his throat loudly. So what happened? Did you ever get near any of the other giant? What? Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah. On the third night after Carcross was killed, he crept out the cave we'd been hiding in and headed back down into the gulpy, keeping our eyes keen for the Death Eaters. Go inside a few of the caves, no will. Then in about the sixth one, said Hagrid. Didn't they attack you when they saw you? Asked Hermione. Probably wouldn't if they'd been in any condition, said Hagrid. But they was badly hurt, all three of them. Algomath's lot had beaten them unconscious. They had woke up and crowded into the nearest shelter they couldn't find anyway. One of them had a bit of English and then translate for the others, and what we had to say didn't seem to go down too badly. So we keep going back visiting wounded. I reckon we had about 6 or 7 of them convinced at point 6 or 7, said Ron eagerly. Well, that's not bad. Are they going to come over here and start fighting you know who with us? But Hermione said, what do you mean? At one point, Hagrid. Hagrid looked at her sadly. Olga's Lord dreaded the caves. One that survived didn't want no more to do with us after that. So there aren't any giant coming, said Ron, looking disappointed. No, said Hagrid, heaving a deep sigh as he turned over the stick again and applied the cooler side of his face. But we didn't want meant to do. We gave them Dumbledore's message, and some of them heard it, and I expect some of them remember it. Just maybe them that don't want to stay around. Golgamets will move out to the mountain, and there got to be a chance they'll remember Dumbledore's friendly to them. Would be they all come. Snow was filling up the window now. Harry became aware that the knees of his robes were soaked through. Fang was rolling with his head in Harry's lap. Hagrid and Hermione quietly affect a while. Did you? Was there any sign of? Did you hear anything about your mother while you were there? Hagrid, unobscure eye rested upon her, and Hermione looked rather scared. I'm sorry, I forgot it. Did Hagrid grunted. Died a year ago. They told me. Oh, I'm really sorry, said Hermione in a very small voice. Hagrid shrugged his massive shoulders. No need, he said shortly. Can remember her much. Wasn't great mother. They were silent again. Hermione glanced nervously at Harry and Ron, plainly wanting them to speak. But you still haven't explained how you got in the state, Hagrid, Ron asked, gesturing toward Hagrid's blood-stained face. Or why you are back so late, said Harry. Cyrus says Madame Maxim got back here ages ago. Who attacked you? Said Ron. I haven't been attacked, said Hagrid apathetically. But the rest of his world were drowned in suddenly outbreak of raping on the door. Hermione gasped, her mug slipped through her fingers and splashed on the floor. Frank yelled. All four of them stared at the window beside the doorway. The shadow of somebody small and squat tripped across the thin curtain. It's her. One whispered, get under here. Harry said quickly, sneezing the invisibility cloak. He wielded it over himself and Hermione while Ron tore around the table and dived beneath the cloak so well. Huddled together, they backed away into corner. Frank was barking badly at the door. Hagrid looked thoroughly confused. Hagrid hid her purse. Hagrid seized Harry's and Ron's mug and shoved them under the cushion and Frank's basket. Frank was now leaping up at the door. Hagrid pushed him out of the way with his foot and pulled it open. Professor Umbridge was standing in the doorway wearing her green tweed cloak and a matching hat with ear flap lip Perseus, she leaned back so as to see Hagrid's face. She barely reached his level, so she said slowly and loudly, as though speaking to somebody deaf, "You are Hagrid, are you?" Without waiting for the answer, she strode into the room, her bulging eyes rolling in every direction. Getting away, she snapped, waving her handbag at Fang, who had bounded to her and was attempting to lick her face. "Oh, I don't want to be rude," said Hagrid, staring at her. "But who the rude Ellie you are? My name is Dolores Breach." Eyes were sweeping the cabin. Twice they stared directly into the corner where Harry stood, sandwiched between Ron and Hermione. "Dolores Umbridge," Hagrid said, sounding thoroughly confused. "I thought you were one of the Ministry. Don't you work in with Fudge?" "I was Senior Undersecretary to Ministry, yes," said Umbridge, now pacing around the cabin, talking in every tiny detail within, from our sack again, the wall, to be abandoned traveling clock. "I am now the Defense Against the Dark Art teacher." "That's brave of you," said Hagrid. "There is nothing many had that taken this job anymore." "And Hogwarts High Inquisitor," said Umbridge, giving no sign that she had heard him. "What's that?" said Hagrid, probing. "Precisely what I was going to ask," said Umbridge, pointing at the broke start of china on the floor that had been Hermione's mug. "Oh," said Hagrid, with almost helpful glance toward the corner where Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood hidden. "Oh, that was Frank broke a mug, so I had to use the one instead." Fred pointed to the mug from which he had been drinking. One had a steel cap over the dragon stick pressed to his eyes. Umbridge stood facing him now, taking in every detail of appearance instead of cabin. "I heard voices," she said quietly. "I was talking to Fang," said Hagrid sharply. "And was he talking back to you?" "Well, in manner of speaking," said Hagrid, looking uncomfortable. "I sometimes say Fang's near enough human. There are three sets of footprints in the snow leading from the castle door to your cabin," said Umbridge sickly. Hermione gasped. Hagrid cleared a band over her mouth. Luckily, Fang was stepping loudly around them to Professor Umbridge's room, and she did not appear to have heard. "Well, I only just got back," said Hagrid, waving an enormous hand at the help struck. "Maybe some came to call earlier, and I missed them. There are no footsteps leading away from your cabin door." "Well, I don't know why that's been said," Hagrid, tugging nervously at his head and again glancing toward the corner where Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood as through against for help. Umbridge wheeled around and strode the length of the cabin, looking around carefully. She bent and peered under the bed. She opened Hagrid's cupboard. She passed within 2 inches of where Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood pressed against the wall. Harry actually pulled in his stomach as she walked by. After looking carefully inside the enormous cauldron Hagrid used for cooking, she wheeled around again and said, "What was happened to you? How do you sustain those injuries?" Hagrid hastily removed the dragon stick from his face, which in Harry's opinion was a mistake because the black and purple brushing all around his eye was now clearly visible, not to mention the large amount from flesh and congealed blood on the face. "Oh, I had a bit of an accident," he said lamely. "What sort of accident?" "I tripped." "You tripped?" she repeated coldly. "Yeah, that's right. Or a friendly broomstick. I don't fly myself. Well, look at size of me. I don't reckon that's a broomstick. That's hold me. Friend of mine, Brits. Abrazan horses. I don't know if you have ever seen them. Big beast winging. I have had a bit of ride on one of them, and it was. Where have you been? Asked Umbridge, cutting coolly through Hagrid's babbling. Where have I? Benias said, term started more than 2 months ago. Another teacher had to cover your classes. None of your colleagues had been able to give me any information as to your whereabouts. You left no address. Where have you been? There was a pause in which Hagrid stared at her with his newly covered eyes. Harry could mostly hear the brain working furiously. I have been away for my health, he said. For your health, said Umbridge. I travelled over Harry's discolored and swollen face. Dragon blood dripped gently onto his waistcoat and silence. I see. Yes, said Hagrid. Bit of fresh air, said as a gamekeeper. Fresh air must be so difficult to come by, said Umbridge sweetly. The small patch of Hagrid's face that was not black or purple flashed. Well, change of scene, mountain scenery, said Umbridge swiftly. She knows, Harry thought disrespectfully. Mountains, Hagrid repeatedly clear, think fast. Nope, south of France, for bit of sun and sea. Really, said Umbridge, you don't have much of two, yeah, well, sensitive skin, said Hagrid, attempting an integrating smile. Harry noticed that two of his teeth had been knocked out. Umbridge looked at him coldly, his smile flattened. Then she hoisted her handbag a little higher into the crook of her arm and said, I shall of course be informing the ministry of your late return, right? Said Hagrid, nodding. You have to know, too, that the High Inquisitor, it is my unfortunate but necessary duty to inspect my fellow teachers, so I daresay we shall meet again soon enough. She turned sharply and marched back to the door. You are inspecting us, Hagrid echoed blankly, looking after her. Oh yes, said Umbridge softly, looking back at him with her hand on the door handle. The ministry is determined to weed out unsatisfactory teacher. Hagrid, good night. She left, closing the door behind him. With a snap, Harry made to pull off the invisibility cloak, but Hermione seized in impressed. Not yet, she breathed in his ear. She might not be gone yet. Hagrid seemed to be thinking the same way. He stamped across the room and pulled back the curtain an inch or so. She's gone back to the castle, he said in a low voice, blaming inspecting people. Is she? Yeah, said Harry, pulling the clock off. Railway on probation already. What sort of thing are you planning to do with us in class? Hagrid asked Hermione. Oh, don't you worry about that. I have got a great lot of lesson planned, said Hagrid enthusiastically, scooping up his dragon stick from the table and slapping it over his eyes again. I have been keeping a couple of creatures safe for your owl's ears. You waited, they are something really special. Especially in the what way? Asked Hermione tentatively. I'm not saying, said Hagrid happily. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Look, Hagrid, said Hermione urgently, dropping all present. Professor Umbridge won't be at all happy if you bring anything to class that's too dangerous. Dangerous, said Hagrid, looking gaily bemused. Don't be silly, I wouldn't give you anything dangerous. I mean, alright, they can look after themselves. Hagrid, you have got to pass Umbridge's inspection, and to do that, it would really be better if she saw you teaching us how to look after horlogs, how to tell the difference between gnolls and hedgehogs, stuff like that, said Harmony earnestly. But that's not very interesting, Harmony, said Hagrid. The stuff I have got is much impressive. I have been bringing them for years. I reckon I have got that or domestic herd in Britain. Hagrid, please, said Harmony, a note of real desperation in her voice. Bridge is looking for any excuse to get rid of creatures she thinks are close to Dumbledore. Please, wildly and cast a one-eye look on longing toward the vast bed in the corner. Listen, it's been a long day. It's late, he said, patting Harmony gently on the shoulder so that her knees gave way and hit the floor with her. Oh, sorry, he pulled her back by the neck of her robes, looking, don't you go worrying about me. I promise you, I have got really good stuff planned for your lesson. Now I'm back. Now you lot had better get back to the castle and don't forget to wipe your footprint out behind you. I don't know if you got through him, said Ron a short while later, having checked that the coast was clear. They walked back up to the castle through the thickening snow, leaving no trace behind them due to arbitration charm. Harmony was perfuming as they went. They, I'll go back again tomorrow, said Harmony determinedly. I'll plan this lesson for him if I have to. I don't care if she throw out railway, but she is not taking Hagrid. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. Till then, see you. Bye bye.